A young boy discreetly captured an image within the nursing home, and its contents sent shockwaves through social media. Ethan grasped the hand of his mother, Rachel. Every Saturday afternoon, they visited Silverhaven Nursing Home, as if it were a sacred ritual. Ethan's grandmother, Margaret, experienced the gentle onset of Alzheimer's, yet the bond with her grandson remained intact in her heart and mind. Each time the mother and son arrived with an assortment of baked goods and her beloved orchids. "Good day, Mrs. Rachel," a male voice greeted, introducing himself as Ethan. Mark, the security guard, was in his 40s, sporting a thick beard and an ever-present friendly demeanor. "Once more, I arrive bearing cake. The aroma is simply delightful. Mark, it feels as though the atmosphere is a touch more subdued today, wouldn't you agree?" With a gentle push, Rachel guided Ethan through the door. The weekend arrives, and many families embark on journeys to bring their cherished ones back home for a visit. Yet, there was no need for concern. "I remain vigilant, overseeing the entire facility," Mark responded, a strained smile gracing his lips. "Oh, and ensure that the child stays close and doesn't stray away. The rear hallway is currently undergoing repairs." Ethan nodded, yet his gaze lingered on a gray door at the far end of the corridor. The door stood slightly ajar, its angle allowing a soft, golden glow to seep out from within. He and his mother stepped into Margaret's room. She perched on the edge of the bed, delicate and silver-haired, yet grasped Ethan's hand with unwavering strength. "Ethan, Grace's son," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Absolutely not, Grandma." Ethan leaned in and softly said, "I'm Rachel's son, your grandson." With a sorrowful smile, Rachel gently pressed a damp cloth to her mother's forehead, offering a moment of tender care. She glanced at her son and said, "Stay with Grandma for a moment. I'll go see if Miss Karen has provided Grandma with all her Medicat. At the mere utterance of Karen's name, a shiver ran down Ethan's spine. He had encountered her on several occasions, the facilities manager, consistently wearing a stern expression and possessing eyes that appeared to conceal a deeper truth. After some time had passed and Grandma Margaret had drifted into slumber, Ethan quietly ventured outside, the remnants of the bag of cookies clutched in his hand. He had no plans to venture far. He merely wished to gaze down the hallway where the dim light continued to flicker in an odd manner. A chilling breeze slipped through the narrow gap in the door. He advanced with measured intent, not a soul in view. "Is anyone present within?" Ethan murmured softly. Silence prevails. Yet as he leaned closer, his ear brushing against the door, a delicate whisper escaped into the air. "Cease, I implore you, refrain, not once more." It was a soft, trembling groan. Ethan's heart raced with fervor. He softly nudged the door ajar. The door creaked softly, allowing him a glimpse within. A frail old man lay bound to the bed, his hands and feet secured with tattered cloth straps. He was a mere wisp of a figure, eyes sealed shut, with dried blood staining the corner of his mouth. A piercing voice sliced through the silence. "If you continue to prattle on, I might just have to administer a dose that will leave you unconscious for 3 days. Do you hear me?" It was indeed Karen. She lingered by the bed, gripping a slender plastic rod, rhythmically tapping it against the frame. An aged man still weeping for his lost daughter. "She has long since passed away. If she were here to witness the sorry state you've become, she would undoubtedly have turned her back on you." Ethan clasped his hand over his mouth, shaking uncontrollably. The elderly man slowly opened his eyes, a look of sheer terror etched across his face. I acted without fault. I simply yearned for a companion to share my thoughts with." Karen curled her lip in disdain. "Are you interested in having a conversation? Then converse with your own damn shadow." From her pocket she extracted a syringe, a mere whisper, sufficient to silence you for a handful of hours. Ethan took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. Yet, he came to a halt. He recalled that his phone was in his possession. With trembling hands, he activated the camera, leaning in toward the narrow gap of the door, striving to maintain a steady focus. 1 moment, 2 moments, and then he captured the image. The scene unfolded, a sickly yellow light illuminating the old man bound to the bed, his face contorted in agony, while Karen's silhouette loomed beside him, syringe poised in her grasp. As he saved the photo, his hands quivering, he heard footsteps approaching from behind. "What brings you to this place?" Mark's voice resonated through the air. Ethan leaped and spun around. A sound of groaning reached my ears. I believed someone had been injured. Mark narrowed his eyes. The door is meant to remain locked. I was unaware. It was ajar, just a bit. Mark strode over and forcefully closed the door behind him. Access is strictly prohibited. That is a unique zone of seclusion. If the grown-ups discover this, it will surely lead to complications. Ethan pursed his lips and gave a subtle nod. I apologize. He dashed away, gripping his phone tightly, his heart a tempest of emotions. As darkness enveloped the world outside, Ethan remained silent in the car, lost in thought on the journey home. Rachel cast a fleeting look at her son. Your behavior seems unusual. Has there been an incident at the residence? Mother, I witnessed an elderly man bound, receiving an injection. Karen accomplished it. What is this? Ethan, are you truly serious? He extended his phone towards her. I captured an image. With a deliberate motion, Rachel grasped the phone. Her gaze fell upon the screen, and a gasp escaped her lips. Oh my goodness! Following a prolonged silence, she let out a deep sigh. We shall engage in conversation with the director. I find it hard to believe that Karen would engage in such actions, however. If the allegations hold any truth, we must seek clarity. What is his name, Mother? Rachel pondered. I ponder. Richard. I recall Grandma speaking of him, a cherished companion from her younger days. Yet, it has been an eternity since our paths last crossed. On the following morning, within the confines of Silver Haven Nursing Home, Rachel, this was merely a misunderstanding, Maria, the facility's administrator, remarked, her brow furrowed as she scrutinized the photo. Misinterpretation. Rachel arched an eyebrow. My son heard the unsettling sound of groaning and caught sight of an elderly man bound and helpless. The young lad conjured visions in his mind. Mr. Richard grapples with mental health challenges. He grapples with behavioral disorders and frequently engages in self-harm. It is essential that we carefully secure his limbs to ensure his safety. Ethan's fist tightened into hard knots. However, I overheard Karen making threats towards him. She struck. This boy ought to learn to respect his elders, Karen remarked. Emerging from the shadows, her lips curling into a smirk. He formed a subtle smile, curling his lips ever so slightly. I have dedicated 15 years to this place. It is well understood the level of commitment I possess. So, what prompted him to seek assistance? Ethan declared, raising his chin defiantly. He harbors a fear of you. Karen approached him, lowering herself gracefully. Young man, there are moments when our imagination can conjure illusions that stray far from reality. Refrain from causing harm to others due to fleeting, immature emotions. Understood? Rachel gazed at her son, then shifted her gaze to the photograph. She nibbled on her lip. I shall ponder it further. That night, Ethan lay in bed, his eyes wide open, staring into the darkness. Rest eluded him. He unlocked his phone and gazed at the image. The scene remains etched in memory. The cruelty, the fear reflected in the old man's eyes, and the sharp crack of the rod striking the wall. He launched a social media application and crafted a post. Ethan is the name I go by. I am 14 years of age. Yesterday, I witnessed the manager at a nursing home mistreat an elderly man who was bound and helpless. Evidence is at hand. It is said that I fabricated it. Yet, I am certain that what I witnessed was genuine. Kindly, do not remain quiet. He affixed the photograph. In just 2 minutes, the post garnered 12 likes. Then 53. Then 500. Responses began to flood in. This is utterly terrifying. Is this truly real? That photograph sends a shiver down the spine. It is imperative that an investigation be conducted without delay. 1 hour later, the post and photo had garnered nearly 10,000 shares. Ethan's fists tightened, his gaze fixed intently on the screen. For the first time in his existence, he felt the weight of his fear echoed in the hearts of those around him. Yet, for the first time, he found himself utterly unprepared for what lay ahead. Rachel, have you come across this? Amy's voice echoed through the air, a familiar sound to Rachel as they shared their lunch break at the law office. She raised her phone, its screen illuminated by a striking headline. A young man claims that a nursing home is engaged in elder abuse. Are his allegations grounded in reality, or is he merely seeking attention? Rachel recoiled, seizing the phone. Ethan's expression was grave, his intense gaze fixed beside the image of Mr. Richard bound and helpless. Oh my God, she murmured, her hands quivering. Isn't that Ethan? Amy murmured softly. Did you allow him to post this? Negative. He accomplished it on his own. This morning we had a brief disagreement, though I was unaware he would react that way. This photo has captured the public's imagination. Amy drew the phone nearer to her ear. Yet there are those who claim it is nothing but a fabrication, transformed through digital manipulation. Experts in Photoshop are currently conducting an analysis. Rachel remained silent. She launched a news application. A new headline emerged. Silver Haven Nursing Home has issued a response, stating that the photo is a creation of the imagination. She gently tapped the article. At the heart of it all lay a photograph of Karen, her face adorned with makeup, eyes glistening with tears, poised on a leather chair amidst the backdrop of a press conference. I've worked in elderly care for over 15 years, Karen said, her voice thick with emotion. These seniors hold a special place in my heart, akin to my own family. The accusation of abuse has delivered the most profound shock of my existence. A reporter inquired, "What are your thoughts on the photo that has been circulating?" It remains unclear who orchestrated the event, yet I hold the belief that children occasionally lack a complete grasp of their own actions. Perhaps the boy simply craved attention. Rachel ended the call, her cheeks aflame. With a swift motion, she retrieved her phone and dialed her son's number. "Ethan, where have you wandered off to?" Within the confines of his home, his voice emerged as a whisper, tinged with uncertainty. "I apologize, Mother, but remaining silent was not an option for me. I understand. I see your point, but this has really escalated, Ethan. Yet, I spoke the truth, Mother. You caught a glimpse of the photo as well. Why do you remain silent? I assure you, my skepticism is not a reflection of disbelief in your words. Yet, when an issue ignites into a social media tempest, it transcends mere truth. It evolves into a fierce confrontation, and I feel a deep sense of fear for you." In the interim, within the halls of Lincoln High School, there he stands, the child who fabricated the image. A cluster of upperclassmen erupted in laughter, their fingers gesturing mockingly. Ethan averted his gaze, gripping his backpack tightly, hastening his steps through the corridor. "Hey, Ethan," a fellow student named Jake approached him. "So, you've made quite a name for yourself, haven't you?" Ethan remained silent. Jake continued, not believing you would truly follow through with that. "My mother claims that you fabricated everything." "I didn't," Ethan murmured softly. "I truly witnessed it." Jake offered a nonchalant shrug. "I sincerely hope you are correct. However, I have come to learn that the principal wishes to speak with your mother." Ethan felt a sudden lurch in his stomach. Within the confines of the principal's office, "We hold no judgment against Ethan," stated Mr. Davis, the principal. Yet, he finds himself at the heart of a significant controversy. The school is receiving widespread attention across social media platforms. Rachel sat opposite him, her fingers entwined with Ethan's. Mr. Davis continued, "We have received numerous calls, emails, and even threatening messages. A number of parents are seeking to alter class placements or even consider transferring to different schools." Rachel tightened her grip on her son's hand. "I understand," she said softly. "However, Ethan is not the type of child who fabricates stories." Mr. Davis let out a weary sigh, implying that he wasn't making any accusations. "Our primary concern lies in his safety and the integrity of the school's reputation." Outside the office, Ethan gripped his phone with a sense of urgency. The remarks continued to flow. Is this child experiencing mental instability? Who granted him the permission to share images of another person on the internet? It is essential that parents also come under scrutiny. He gazed upward at his mother. "I apologize." Rachel sank to her knees and enveloped her son in a warm embrace. "It's all right, my dear. Your safety is all that matters to me. I hold no anger towards you." In the stillness of the night, Ethan reclined in his room, shrouded in darkness, with only the faint luminescence of his phone screen illuminating the shadows around him. A notification appeared on the screen. "A friend request has arrived from Karen Mitchell." He trembled. A message soon arrived. "Your intellect is truly impressive, yet there are moments when possessing excessive intelligence can lead to peril. Rest peacefully." Ethan's phone slipped from his grasp and he straightened abruptly, a sheen of sweat forming at the nape of his neck. He dashed toward his mother's room. "Mother, she has sent me a message." With a swift motion, Rachel grasped the phone, her eyes scanning the message before she promptly dialed the police. "I must bring to attention a concerning threat made by an employee at a nursing home. Indeed, Karen Mitchell. Indeed, the individual now facing allegations of mistreating the elderly. A request came through the line for a screenshot of the message. Rachel acquiesced. Yet, that night, no one arrived. With the dawn of a new day, a fresh headline swept across the internet. A graphic design expert has verified that the photo exhibits indications of having been altered. Ethan pored over it repeatedly, his hands trembling with anticipation. The piece referenced Louise Collins, an authority in digital imaging. The lighting in the background fails to harmonize with the shadows cast upon the old man's face. It seems quite probable that the boy incorporated an image of a bound individual into a pre-existing backdrop. A comment pinned below read, "For the past 7 years, I have immersed myself in the world of Photoshop. With just a single glance, I can discern its inauthenticity." In a matter of moments, Ethan was bombarded with a deluge of vitriolic messages, scorn and derision. Deceitful little imp yearns for a taste of internet fame, utter deception. He cast the phone onto the bed, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Rachel." Amy reached out with a phone call. "Have you noticed that the children at school are beginning to exclude Ethan? A number of parents are considering legal action, litigating." "He is merely a child," Rachel exclaimed. "Have they lost their minds?" Amy fell silent for a brief moment. Ethan is undoubtedly a good kid, yet the media remains unaware of that fact. For them, this is merely a spectacle. Upon their return to the nursing home that afternoon, the ambiance had shifted significantly. The staff no longer offers cheerful greetings. There are no smiles. With a gentle nudge, Rachel guided Ethan toward Margaret's room. Yet in place of Mark, a different guard named Robert loomed nearby, his demeanor as unyielding as granite. "Rachel," Karen approached from afar, her voice carrying an unexpected gentleness. "I require a moment of your time for a private conversation." Rachel cast her gaze upon Ethan. "Please wait for me in Grandma's room, all right? Stay right where you are." She felt the door click shut behind her. Ethan set the bag of cookies down on the table and took a seat next to his grandmother. Yet Margaret remained quiet, her gaze fixed on the window, no salutation. Absent was the familiar smile. "Beloved matriarch." "I'm here," Ethan whispered. She held her tongue. He extended his hand toward hers, yet she withdrew softly, as though gripped by a quiet fear. He emerged, traversing the corridor. As he approached the forbidden door, he caught sight of Mark securing it with a key. The man cast a look in his direction, his face betraying no emotion. "Greetings, Mr. Mark," Ethan murmured gently. "You shouldn't be wandering around here," he replied curtly before turning on his heel and walking away. Ethan surveyed his surroundings. Not a soul in view, his heart weighed down more than it ever had before. As Rachel made her way home, a profound silence enveloped her. "Mother," Ethan began. "Silence," Rachel interjected, cutting through the air. "Hello." "Time is required for contemplation." Ethan bowed his head. His chest was as heavy as a stone. He was utterly astonished. Those who once stood by him had all abandoned him. Even his mother, the very one he had hoped would remain steadfast by his side, was gradually slipping away. He unlocked his phone and gazed at the photo once more. Then I scrolled down to peruse the final comment from an unfamiliar account. "Regardless, if the child speaks honestly, it is truly heart-wrenching. Yet, if he is deceiving, the sorrow deepens even further." Ethan shut his eyes, surrendering to the darkness within. The words reverberated through his thoughts all night long. "Ms. Rachel, I believe it would be wise to contemplate allowing Ethan a respite from school for a time." The voice belonged to Ms. Emily, the homeroom teacher of Class 8A. She endeavored to infuse her words with gentleness, yet her tone remained resolutely firm. Rachel's brow furrowed. "What is the reason behind this?" "The current circumstances are undeniably fraught with tension. A number of parents have reached out to the administration, insisting on class transfers and even escalating their concerns to the school board." "Rachel," Mr. Davis, the principal, interjected, "we understand the circumstances. However, the weight of media scrutiny is immense, and the institution finds itself ensnared in its grasp. It is essential that we implement interim strategies to safeguard the educational atmosphere. By removing my son from the classroom." Rachel's voice took on a steely edge. "He was innocent of any wrongdoing. We're not suggesting he did," Emily murmured gently. Yet, he finds himself under scrutiny, marked as a target. The more time he spends here, the greater the danger he faces. Rachel let out a sharp breath, her gaze falling upon Ethan, who sat in silence, his eyes puffy and tinged with red. "What is the duration of this break?" "It will take at least 2 weeks for things to settle down," the principal replied. As the evening settled in, Rachel carefully poured a glass of orange juice, placing it gently before her son. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I never imagined it would reach such depths." "Are you upset with me?" Ethan inquired gently. Rachel gazed at him, her voice trembling with emotion. "Absolutely not. I have never held any anger towards you for choosing the path of righteousness, yet no one seems to believe me." He rested his head upon the table. Rachel embraced him, her hand quivering as she caressed his hair. "We will navigate this together, my dear." A week later, a 6-minute video clip set social media ablaze. Karen stood at her second press conference, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, her voice quavering with emotion. "I'm uncertain how I became entangled in this situation. Perhaps I was simply too rigid, lacking the warmth that some individuals needed. However, I have never struck another person. My daily work records are meticulously kept, accompanied by a multitude of witnesses." "Ah, that photograph. Authorities have already declared it a fabrication," the host inquired. "Did you convey a menacing message to the boy, as he asserted?" "I never did," Karen replied, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "If Ethan has received any communication from me, kindly engage the authorities. I seek answers as well." Rachel observed the clip, then cast the remote onto the table. Such a hypocrite. Ethan remained silent. He discreetly retrieved his phone and revisited Karen's previous message. Yet, curiously, it had vanished. "That's impossible," Ethan muttered, his voice barely rising above a whisper. "I did not remove it, I truly swear." With a swift motion, Rachel grasped the phone and glanced at the screen. "The message has left no trace behind. It is possible that she removed it from her end, or employed an app that erases itself. Yet you witnessed it. You have perused it." "I did indeed. Yet at this moment, evidence remains elusive. No visual capture available. Fear held me back from taking one." The following day, Rachel made her way to the office. The air was thick with tension. A hush enveloped the room as she entered. Amy drew her away, guiding her into the quiet of the hallway. "Rachel, the management team is convening for a private discussion regarding your situation. An anonymous letter has surfaced, alleging that your son is tarnishing the company's reputation." "What is this?" "There are concerns that Ethan may be damaging the company's reputation." Amy offered a subtle nod. "A decision has yet to be reached. However, it is essential to ready yourself." Rachel pressed her palm to her forehead, seeking solace as she leaned heavily against the wall. "This is utter madness. What sort of world do we inhabit?" On a Saturday afternoon, Rachel brought Ethan to see Margaret, as was their customary routine. Yet, on this occasion, the receptionist's demeanor was frosty, as she merely gestured with a pointed finger. "Room 302 has been relocated. Miss Margaret has taken up residence in room 306. "What prompted her relocation?" Rachel inquired. "Has something occurred?" The receptionist stated sharply that it was a decision made by management. Appeals are not permitted. They stepped into the unfamiliar room. This room stood in stark contrast to the old one, its dampness palpable, curtains tattered and hanging limply, while a musty odor lingered in the air. "Beloved matriarch," Ethan spoke softly. Margaret lay with her back to the world, silent and unyielding. "Are you all right?" Rachel moved in closer. Margaret pivoted on her heel. Her gaze was hollow, her lips quivered slightly. "Have you brought the orchids?" Ethan revealed a delicate bouquet, its colors vibrant and fresh. Her smile was delicate, a fleeting expression that vanished as she averted her gaze upon the arrival of a young nurse. Natalie, the nurse, her black hair framing a weary face, cast a fleeting glance in their direction. "Regrettably, the visiting hours are nearing their conclusion. It would be wise to depart shortly." "But we've only been here for 10 minutes, Rachel remarked. "The rules have shifted," Natalie responded gently. "I appreciate your understanding." Upon departing the nursing home, Ethan remained quiet throughout the journey. Upon their arrival home, he finally found his voice. "Grandma is facing consequences due to my actions." Rachel remained silent, her fingers clenching the steering wheel with increasing intensity. On a Monday morning, Rachel found an email waiting for her from the company management. It is with regret that we must inform you of your suspension for 1 week, as we conduct an internal investigation concerning matters that have impacted the organization's reputation. She perused it repeatedly. Her expression became a mask of stillness. Mother, Ethan stepped into the living room. It's all right. Rachel managed to muster a smile. It simply signifies, I will be home with you for a few days. Your suspension has been enacted, Ethan inquired gently. She remained silent, sinking into her seat as she concealed her face within her hands. On that particular night, Amy arrived. She arrived with 2 bags of food and a bottle of wine in hand. To you, this aids in achieving restful slumber. Rachel gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Rest eludes me. Amy remarked that they fear scandal more than they fear the truth. However, I believe Ethan acted without fault. I have faith in him. Ethan emerged from the confines of his room. Miss Amy, do you truly have faith in my words? Perhaps it's due to my lengthy tenure as a lawyer, but I can discern the truth in someone's eyes, Amy smiled. Your gaze was unwavering. You remained utterly still, not a single blink betraying your composure. That is the visage of authenticity. He bowed his head, his eyes shimmering with emotion. 2 nights later, a knock echoed through the stillness at 10 p.m. With a gentle push, Rachel swung the door open. A man stood there, clad in a white shirt and dark glasses, exuding politeness, yet his expression was as frigid as ice. I apologize for reaching out at this hour. My name is Jonathan Walker, and I serve as the legal counsel for Silver Haven Nursing Home. What is the essence of this matter? Rachel inquired, her senses heightened. We come bearing a cordial caution. Should Ethan fail to retract the misleading post from social media within the next 24 hours, we will initiate a defamation lawsuit for the dissemination of false information. Rachel remained motionless. Do you intend to intimidate us? I'm merely fulfilling my duties, Jonathan shrugged. Please consider your thoughts with great care. Such occurrences have the potential to shatter a child's future. Ethan emerged from the shelter of his mother, his gaze resolute. I refuse to delete it. I spoke the truth. I harbor no fear. Attorney Jonathan regarded him, his lips pressed tightly together. Your courage is truly commendable, yet, at times, courage may merely masquerade as folly. He pivoted and strode away, disappearing into the darkness of the night. Rachel forcefully closed the door, pressing her back against it as she gasped for breath. Darling, a sense of fear is beginning to creep in. Ethan grasped her hand with a firm intensity. I wish to spare you from any pain that may arise from my actions, yet I find myself unwilling to remain voiceless. Rachel enveloped her son in a warm embrace. Together we shall confront it, yet we shall not yield. The young lad leaned his head gently against her shoulder. The wind wailed outside, seeping through the crevices of the door. In the shadows, unseen forces appeared to be gradually, mercilessly, and quietly constricting around their necks. Do you truly wish to return to that place? Rachel inquired of Ethan, her tone laced with concern. I refuse to let it conclude in such a manner, Ethan responded. There was a time when you held faith in my words. At this moment, I must demonstrate its validity. Rachel remained quiet. Her gaze lingered on Ethan's quivering wrist. After a brief pause, she inclined her head softly. I shall remain in the car. However, it is imperative that you refrain from venturing too far into the restricted area. Should anything unusual occur, please reach out to me at once, I assure you. On a serene Saturday afternoon, Ethan entered Silver Haven Nursing Home, a backpack casually draped over his shoulder. He offered the receptionist a familiar smile, as was his custom. No one seemed to notice. All eyes were glued to the latest viral clip of Karen from the press conference. She wept more than ever, her voice breaking under the weight of unfounded accusations. Ethan hurriedly strode past the central corridor, veering toward the dusty storage room. His hand quivered as he unzipped his backpack, retrieving an aged Android phone, its frame cracked and screen marred with scratches. He had meticulously charged it and set up an auto-recording video application. With careful deliberation, Ethan made his way toward the forbidden zone. The door stood ajar. He nudged it softly, with no one around to witness. His heart raced with fervor. The interior lay shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by a dim glow seeping in from the hallway. He crept along the floor, slipping silently into the vacant room. He gently set the phone beneath a wooden cabinet, adjusting the camera to capture the hallway window, the very place where he had once witnessed Mr. Richard enduring mistreatment. "Please come back," Ethan whispered. "Allow me to demonstrate the authenticity of my experience." Approximately an hour later, Karen made her entrance into the room. "Open the window," she commanded, her voice sharp as she gestured to the nurse trailing behind her. Claire, a slender young nurse with her hair neatly tied in a high bun, appeared hesitant. "Miss Karen." "Mr. Richard appears to be quite frail today. His heartbeat is languid, remarkably improved." With a disdainful sneer, Karen remarked, less screaming. "There is no necessity for an excess of injections." Mr. Richard lay still upon the bed, his eyes lacking luster, his mouth barely ajar. Karen drew near, her voice a seething whisper, brimming with rage. "Do you believe you can sway the world to stand against me? Do you really believe that your soft murmurs will make a difference? I have reached my limit with you after all these years. There is no sympathy for your plight." "Please don't," Mr. Richard whimpered. "Silence, please." Karen struck him sharply across the face. Claire recoiled, retreating from the source of her discomfort. "Please don't do that," Claire whispered softly. "Are you willing to risk your employment?" Karen's patience frayed. "Leave now. I will take care of it." Claire paused for a moment, then pivoted and walked away. She felt the door click shut behind her. Karen retrieved a vial from the depths of her white coat pocket, a mere whisper of dosage, sufficient to lull you into a few hours of slumber. At the very least, you continue to draw breath. Her hands trembled, the cause ambiguous. Was it fury or mere routine? With a swift motion, she retrieved a syringe and drove it into the old man's arm, her resolve unwavering. The whole scene unfolded before the camera's lens, visuals, sound, all of it. As dusk settled, Ethan made his way back to the room. He feigned a casual stroll, let his wallet slip from his grasp, and swiftly bent down to retrieve the phone. With a racing heart, he shoved it into his backpack. He went unnoticed by all. Once settled in the car, Rachel glanced at her watch. "What caused the delay? Is there anything unusual?" Ethan remained silent. He effortlessly powered on the phone and swiftly advanced the video. As Karen struck Mr. Richard, the moment she brandished the syringe, Rachel instinctively covered her mouth with her hand. "Oh my goodness! We must send this to the police," Ethan whispered. "This time, I possess undeniable evidence." That evening, within the confines of his home, Ethan powered up his computer and connected his phone. Yet, an unusual occurrence took place. An error flickered across the screen. Information could not be located. The folder stands devoid of any contents. He made another attempt. The outcome remains unchanged. He opened the camera, only to find it devoid of any storage. "Mother, it has vanished." Ethan let out a cry. "The video has vanished." Rachel hurriedly made her way over. "Was it deleted by mistake?" "I was unable to. I didn't lay a finger on anything. I have just received the phone once more." He powered the phone back on. Within the confines of the video application, the complete recording had vanished. "Has anyone managed to get hold of your phone?" Rachel inquired. "Negative. I kept it securely tucked away in my backpack at all times." "Then perhaps," she paused, her words hanging in the air. "Karen, it is a possibility, or perhaps another individual residing in the household." Ethan quivered. "It feels as though they are observing my every move." 3 days later, Ethan found himself summoned to the principal's office once more. Mr. Davis, the principal, let out a weary sigh. "It has come to our attention that Ethan clandestinely entered the restricted section of the nursing home." "Who made that statement?" Rachel's temper flared. "Is my son being monitored? Security footage exists. They forwarded it to us with a request to alert students regarding trespassing." With a fierce grip, Rachel seized her son's hand, her eyes ablaze with anger. "What of the video my son captured depicting Karen's mistreatment of a senior citizen? Were they able to send that as well?" "No," Mr. Davis replied. "All we obtained was a brief clip depicting Ethan as he entered the room and retrieved an item from beneath a cabinet. Something." Ethan's voice reverberated through the air. "It was taken from them. They were aware that I had captured it, thus they." "Rachel," Mr. Davis interjected, "I recognize your frustration. What we require are facts, not mere conjecture. In the absence of evidence, one finds it challenging." In the stillness of the night, Ethan found himself weeping in his room, his phone gripped tightly in his hand. Rachel entered the room and settled onto the bed. I exhausted all possibilities, Mom. Yet it continues to be wiped away, dismissed. Rachel embraced her son. It's all right, Ethan. Your courage was commendable. Yet, there are moments when the truth must bide its time, awaiting the perfect moment to reveal itself. When will that be, Mother? When will they take his life? She remained silent. She clutched him closer, her eyes glistening with tears of sorrow. As dawn broke, Ethan observed an unsettling anomaly. The original photograph of Mr. Richard, bound and restrained, had mysteriously disappeared. The gallery held no trace of it, not in the ether, nowhere at all. His complexion drained of color. He dashed down the stairs. Mother, the original photograph has vanished. Rachel's brow furrowed in discontent. Could you clarify what you mean? It remains accessible on the internet, yet, should the original vanish, they will declare the online version a counterfeit. All evidence has slipped through my fingers. Rachel grasped her head tightly. Has anyone laid their hands on your phone? Not a soul. I nestled it beneath my pillow throughout the night. She gazed at her son, a pang of emotion gripping her heart. An unseen hand had meddled. But who indeed? And in what manner? That afternoon, within the confines of the nursing home, Ethan sought to engage in conversation with Natalie, the young nurse he had encountered previously. Miss Natalie, have you observed anything unusual? Concerning Mr. Richard, she surveyed her surroundings and spoke in a hushed tone. It is against the rules for me to discuss patients with anyone outside of our circle. However, I witnessed Miss Karen administer the injection to him. Evidence was in my possession, yet it has vanished. The child met her gaze, a weight of seriousness in her expression. At times, possessing an excess of knowledge can prove perilous. I recommend that you cease your actions. What if he were to pass away? Natalie gazed deeply into Ethan's eyes. At times, it appears that this is the sole escape. Her words pierced through the air, sending an icy shiver down his spine. That evening, Rachel found an anonymous letter waiting for her in the mail. Within lay a printed message. Cease all operations. Otherwise, there's a chance that someone may not return home unharmed. Rachel's gaze fixed on Ethan. Her fingers clenched around the paper with intensity. You shall not venture forth alone. Not attending school, not to the care facility. Refrain from granting entry to anyone at the door. Do you feel fear for me, Mom? Negative. I fear for the safety of the one I hold dear above all else. Ethan nodded silently, tears streaming down his face. Is this your device? Karen set the ancient phone down on the table, her gaze piercing and intent. Ethan gazed intently at the object before him. He had no recollection of misplacing it or abandoning it. He was convinced he had secured it within the confines of his drawer at home. How did you get it? He asked, his voice thick with emotion. It was left at the facility. A member of the cleaning staff discovered it and submitted it. I held on to it to give back to your mother. Karen's smile was faint, yet it carried an icy quality. Beside Ethan, Rachel extended her hand to grasp the phone. I appreciate your decision to hold on to it, yet I distinctly recall that my son never returned this to the facility after that day. Karen maintained a soft tone. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. Children frequently become oblivious to their own behaviors. Moreover, he ought to refrain from meandering through restricted zones. Rachel Maria, the head of administration, interjected, We truly hope your family can cooperate. The situation has spiraled beyond control, prompting the facility to initiate an internal audit. If this persists, it will not merely impact Karen. I believe my son is entirely justified in defending the elderly, Rachel asserted sharply. If this facility is truly transparent, what is there to fear? We're not scared, Karen murmured gently. We find ourselves in a state of sorrow. Ethan's actions have inflicted needless suffering on numerous individuals. Ethan's fists tightened into hard knots. I did not tell a falsehood. I witnessed it all. Karen gazed intently into his eyes. At times, the truth aligns closely with our desires and beliefs. What you perceived may have merely been a figment of your imagination. As he made his way home, Ethan glanced at his phone. The space lay utterly devoid of anything. Mother, there is nothing remaining. There are no photographs, no videos, and not a single recording app in sight. She entered the phone. Absolutely. They've got someone who knows their way around technology, Rachel muttered. Trust is a rare commodity in that place. Fear grips me at this moment, Mother. I truly witnessed everything unfold. Natalie appeared as though she had words poised on the tip of her tongue, yet they remained unspoken. Is it the same nurse as before? Indeed. It seems to me that she possesses some knowledge, yet she finds herself under someone else's influence. The following morning, upon their arrival at the nursing home, Ethan observed his grandmother having breakfast in solitude within her new room. She found herself alone, with no one to attend to her needs. A tray of cold porridge lay abandoned. "Grandma." He drew near and took a seat. "Hello, it's Ethan here." Margaret gazed at him, her eyes filled with an unfathomable distance. Is that Chloe's son?" "Absolutely not, Grandma. I am Ethan, your grandson. My mother is Rachel." "Chloe, did she mention that she would give me a ride home?" Ethan grasped her hand, a constriction forming in his throat. Afterward, Rachel entered the room and caught sight of the tray filled with cold food. Why does it seem that no one is looking after her? In recent days, we have found ourselves short-staffed. Claire, the young nurse, entered the room, her weariness evident in her demeanor. A number of staff members opted for leave in response to the intense scrutiny from the media. Rachel asserted, "It's not my mother's fault, nor is it my son's." Claire nodded softly and murmured, "I know. Yet, the circumstances here are far from straightforward." Ethan gazed at her, his eyes alight with a flicker of hope. "Nurse Claire, if you possess any information, I implore you to assist me." She paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "I am unable to do that. Our phones are scrutinized on a daily basis. Surveillance software has been installed. One misplaced word and my career hangs in the balance." "Are you truly going to allow this to persist?" Rachel inquired. Claire cast her gaze toward the door. "Should the opportunity arise, I will act with integrity. However, the time has not arrived." That afternoon, as Rachel and Ethan prepared to depart from the nursing home, they were confronted at the gate by a different security guard, Mr. George, a tall, broad-shouldered figure. "Rachel," he stated with a certain directness, "I have been tasked with inspecting your bags and the boys. What is the reason behind this? That belongs to us personally. We possess the authority as stipulated by our internal security protocol. It has come to my attention that there may be instances of documents or devices being removed from the facility." "From whence did that information originate?" Rachel inquired. "That information cannot be shared." George started to sift through Ethan's bag. The boy yanked it back with a sudden motion. "It is devoid of any content." "Do not resist," George remarked. "Should you choose not to cooperate, we will have no option but to involve the authorities." "It's all right, Mom," Ethan said, gently pulling at her hand. "Allow them to verify. We have committed no wrongdoing." Following an exhaustive search, they were dismissed without so much as a word of apology. "Mom, they're attempting to shatter me," Ethan murmured. "Not at all, my dear. They're simply afraid of you," Rachel responded. Under the cloak of night, Ethan accessed his social media account. All remained intact, the initial post, the shares, the comments, yet now the solitary sympathetic remarks had vanished, supplanted by a fresh surge of fury. "This child continues unabated. He has erased his own proof and now shifts the blame onto others. His mother certainly did not instill the proper values in him." Rachel entered the room and beheld the screen. "They are not only targeting you at this moment, they are also directing their aggression towards me. Mother, I regret to say that had I not shared anything, your suspension might not have occurred." Rachel took her place beside him. "Had you not shared your thoughts, Mr. Richard could very well still be enduring those beatings. Your decision was commendable. However, choosing the path of righteousness frequently entails a price to pay." Ethan pressed his face into her shoulder, tears streaming silently down his cheeks. "Should I simply surrender?" "No," Rachel whispered. "We are simply taking a moment to pause, anticipating the next opportunity. When it arrives, we shall prevail." As dawn broke, Ethan stirred from his slumber, roused by the insistent chime of his phone, a number shrouded in mystery. "Greetings. Michael Sanders, a legal expert dedicated to advocating for the rights of the elderly. Your post caught my eye. You have faith in me. I hold a deep conviction in the gaze of a child, unafraid to voice the unvarnished truth. However, I require more definitive proof. It was in my possession, yet they wiped it all away. Next, we must uncover what remained unaddressed. What might that entail? Everything. A bystander. a recording of the voice, a note penned by hand. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Ethan stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. Indeed, there was a moment when Mr. Richard revealed that he harbored a concealed secret, that if anything were to occur, there would be someone aware. Whom do you refer to? I'm uncertain. Yet, he spoke the name Grace. The sound reached my ears with unmistakable clarity, elegance, perhaps a long-lost companion. Mother! Ethan's voice rang out. Are you acquainted with anyone by the name of Grace? A companion of Mr. Richard. I recall your grandmother speaking of her, Rachel remarked. In their youth, they shared a bond of friendship. Once spent time at Liberty Square. What is the reason behind this? Ethan glanced back at the phone. Mr. Sanders, what if I were to discover Miss Grace? Perhaps at long last we shall uncover the light amidst this pervasive darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow in the room, mother and son prepared to share their evening meal when suddenly the doorbell chimed, breaking the tranquil moment. Rachel rose to respond. An elderly woman, likely in her 70s, small in stature, clad in a long coat, with eyes that sparkled with a hint of sadness, lingered at the door. Is it Rachel, then? My name is Grace, a long-time companion of Richard. It seems the moment has come to break the silence. Ethan emerged, his eyes alight with wonder. Your elegance. She inclined her head in agreement. Once, Richard bestowed upon me a gift, instructed me to pass it on to a person named Ethan should anything unfortunate occur. It feels like an eternity has passed as I eagerly anticipated this moment to finally meet you. Rachel extended an invitation to her. Kindly take a seat. Are you aware of what is happening? With a gentle motion, Grace unzipped her handbag and revealed an aged silver MP3 player, its surface marked by scratches and the passage of time. This has lingered in my drawer for a decade. I'm uncertain about its contents. Yet now, it belongs to you. Ethan grasped the device, his hands quivering with anticipation. Would you consider remaining with us? Would you like me to remain? I no longer wish to face this battle in solitude. With a gentle curve of her lips, Grace smiled. In that moment, solitude fades away. Ethan declared his intention to have the MP3 player examined, his gaze fixed intently on the weathered silver gadget. I have a feeling there's something hidden within these pages. A sensation stirs within me. Grace settled next to him, cradling a cup of tea in her hands. Richard always had a purpose behind his actions. If he entrusted me with it, there must surely be a hidden truth within. Rachel emerged from the kitchen, her hands wrapped in a towel as she dried them off. Ensure you examine it with great care. I will escort you to Uncle Fred's shop. He has a knack for handling vintage technology such as this. The following morning, in a quaint electronics repair shop nestled on the corner, Uncle Fred Gordon, a man with a white beard and thick glasses, shook his head in dismay. This player is venerable, employs a compact memory card. However, it fails to power on. Rachel, Ethan suspects there could be a recording hidden within. It might hold significant importance, Grace elaborated. Why don't you give it a try, Uncle Fred? Rachel proposed. Let us explore what lies within. With precision, Fred gathered his tools and gently detached the back panel. After several careful moments, he employed tweezers to retrieve a minuscule memory card. And so it began, he remarked. Limited in capacity, yet with a stroke of fortune, it might just manage to capture a few fleeting minutes of audio. At home, I possess a laptop. I'll check it, Ethan said quickly, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Fred inclined his head in acknowledgement. Exercise caution. Should anything of significance arise, refrain from sharing it online immediately. One cannot fathom the peril posed by those who conceal such secrets. On that afternoon, the three gathered in the living room, a laptop positioned at the heart of the table. Ethan carefully slid the memory card into the reader, ensuring a snug fit. An unexpected file appeared, revealing evidence. Is it worth my time to engage with it? With a gentle nod, Rachel clasped Grace's hand tightly. The voice of an elderly man emerged, frail yet undeniably distinct, as if it were a gentle echo of the past. If you are hearing this, it signifies that I have departed from this world. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Richard Walker. For months, I have endured abuse, physical violence, and subtle poisoning at the hands of Karen Mitchell and the staff at Silver Haven Nursing Home. Rachel clutched the armrest with a fierce intensity. Richard's voice lingered on. No one was allowed to receive my call. wasn't allowed to see my family. I was deceived into relinquishing control of my bank accounts. I attempted to raise my voice, yet all around me fell into a hush, a moment of stillness. I have faith that Ethan, the boy with a sincere gaze, will be the one to unveil the truth. It has caught your eye. You're aware. Assist me in aiding those who have lost their voice. The sound faded away, leaving behind a lingering sigh, followed by an enveloping silence. Grace's cheeks glistened with tears. Rachel, meet Richard. That voice is unmistakable to me. Ethan succumbed to tears. He had faith in my abilities. He was aware that I would take action. We must bring this to the attention of the police, Rachel declared. At this very moment. On the following morning, the trio made their way to the Central Police Station. A young officer, Sergeant Ryan Collins, greeted them. Is it Rachel Carter, then? A complaint was filed 2 weeks prior. Indeed. At that time, our evidence was insufficient. Ryan grasped the laptop and immersed himself in the recording. His countenance shifted. This indeed could serve as compelling criminal evidence. However, we must confirm the voice. Miss Grace is a dear companion of Richard, Rachel pointed, affirming it. Grace stated with conviction that she was prepared to sign a statement affirming that it was indeed Richard Walker's voice. For more than 4 decades, I have been attuned to that voice. Ryan jotted down notes swiftly. I will pass this along to my superiors. However, it is important to be aware that the verification process could extend over several days. Rachel nodded in understanding. Ensure this remains in the spotlight. That afternoon, Rachel reached out to the nursing home to inform them that they would not be visiting Margaret. A peculiar feminine voice responded. Greetings, I am Megan, the newly appointed coordinator. Miss Margaret has been relocated to room 108 due to medical considerations. What sort of justifications? Rachel's brow furrowed. This is not a matter suited for a phone conversation. However, nothing of great consequence. Ethan caught a snippet of conversation and swiftly pulled out his phone, intent on locating room 108. He sent a discreet message to Claire. Miss Claire, my grandmother has been relocated to a different room. Has something occurred? Moments later, a response arrived. Maintain silence. Be wary of the claims made by the facility. Your grandmother's blood pressure fell after her Medicaid ion was not administered on schedule. I am striving to provide her with the utmost care. Ethan grasped his phone tightly, his gaze fixed on his mother. Mother, they are taking action against grandmother. Rachel retrieved her phone and dialed attorney Michael Sanders. It is imperative that we ensure the safety of our witness. My entire family is under threat. Michael came to a halt. I will submit an urgent request for protection to the police. However, it is essential to protect your evidence with utmost care. Keep your gaze fixed on your son. 48 hours had passed. Ethan made his way to the nursing home by himself, as Rachel was preoccupied with an urgent matter at her job. He arrived with orchids in hand, as he always did. Upon entering the room, he came to an abrupt halt. A black sign adorned the door, a room devoid of occupancy. In the midst of cleaning, Ethan's eyes grew wide with surprise. Beloved matriarch, silence prevails. He hurried to the front desk. Could you please tell me where my grandmother is? Margaret. They claimed she had been moved, yet the room stands vacant. The receptionist cast a fleeting glance at her computer screen before softly murmuring, Please wait a moment. Moments later, Karen emerged, her eyes glinting with an icy intensity. Ethan, it's unwise for you to roam about alone. Where is my grandmother? Miss Margaret underwent a blood test. She is expected to return in a few hours. Where is Nurse Claire gone? She is currently away from work. A replacement nurse has been arranged. Ethan was skeptical of her words. He retrieved his phone and swiftly composed a message. Miss Claire, my grandmother has been taken away. She eludes me. A response arrived shortly thereafter. I find myself in a state of suspension, prohibited from approaching any patients. Exercise caution. Ethan stowed his phone and pivoted to sprint away. He understood that his time was limited. The situation was unraveling before my eyes. As twilight descended, Rachel's phone rang, displaying an unfamiliar number on the screen. Dear Mrs. Rachel Carter, it is with great regret that we must convey this message to you. Miss Margaret has departed from us this afternoon. She stood still, caught in the moment. What is this? In the quiet embrace of slumber, she suffered a stroke. Our efforts at resuscitation proved futile. Just 3 days ago, my mother was in perfect health. You displaced her, altered her treatment, and neglected her care. You took my mother's life." Silence enveloped the line, the voice on the other end fading into stillness. "We extend our heartfelt sympathies." Rachel hurled the phone to the ground. Ethan dashed out of his room. "Mother, what transpired, Mother?" Without uttering a word, she enveloped him in her embrace, tears streaming down her cheeks. "She has departed, hasn't she?" Rachel gave a slight nod. "Could it have been my doing?" Ethan inquired, his voice trembling. "If I had not stirred up trouble, she would not have been relocated." "Negative. You have not erred in any way. Indeed, they did. The blame lies with them." They embraced tightly, tears streaming down their faces, communicating their sorrow in silence. In the shadows, their modest dwelling succumbed to a sorrow too profound to articulate. "I can't bear the thought of returning to the nursing home," Ethan murmured softly amidst the hurried proceedings of Margaret's funeral. Not one staff member from the nursing home made an appearance. No floral tribute from Karen or the administration of Silverhaven Nursing Home. Only family, Grace, and a handful of Margaret's old friends gathered in solemn silence around the dark wooden coffin. "I understand," Rachel whispered. "We shall never return to that place." Grace lingered at their side, her eyes glistening with a crimson hue. In hushed tones, they entomb all that once was. "I couldn't save her," Ethan whispered. "I failed to keep pace. I arrived after the moment had passed." "It's not your fault, Ethan," Grace said. "Richard once shared with me that those who commit wrongdoing often seek to cast blame on those who strive to do what is right. I find myself at a loss for words now. I made an effort, yet I am merely a child." A week slipped by. Ethan remained inside the house. The glow of his computer screen was absent, and his phone lay muted in stillness. He remained silent, ignoring messages from Michael Sanders, from Grace, and even from his old friend Jake. Each morning, Rachel placed a breakfast tray outside his room, yet by noon, it remained untouched. In the stillness of the night, she was awakened by the sound of muffled sobs, the rhythmic thuds of fists against pillows, and the soft whispers of her son to himself. One morning, she resolved to knock. "Ethan, I'm on my way in, all right? I understand the pain you're feeling. I share that sentiment as well. Yet, if you continue to conceal yourself within these walls, victory will belong to them." The door creaked open. Ethan stood there, his frame noticeably leaner, hair tousled and shadows lingering beneath his eyes. "I am weary of conflict. Fatigue weighs heavily upon me. I comprehend. Yet you need not face the battle by yourself." Ethan gave a slight shake of his head. "We possessed proof. The recording was in our possession, yet they still took her life. And they will take more lives." "Rachel," Grace's voice echoed from the living room. "Michael has just sent an email. The authorities have yet to initiate formal proceedings, yet he is actively engaging the media." Ethan emerged, his tone icy. "I have reached a point of indifference. Bestowing it upon anyone proves to be futile." Grace approached with measured steps. "By surrendering, you are playing right into their hands," embracing silence. Were Richard's efforts truly aimed at that, to signify emptiness? "I held a conviction that I could effect change, yet I found myself mistaken. I am merely a child. There is no power, devoid of power." "Yet you possess that which they dread the most," Grace remarked. "The undeniable truth." Ethan cast a glance her way before silently retreating into his room. On a Monday morning, Rachel made her way to the school to submit a request for an additional 2-week leave for Ethan. In the principal's office, Mr. Davis perused the paperwork in silence before speaking softly. "Is there any update?" "Patiently awaiting. However, I believe Ethan isn't ready to return just yet." He nodded. Perhaps it was for the best. A number of parents continued to express their discontent. Whispers circulate that the school may have shielded him from scrutiny. "Rachel," he murmured, a hint of hesitation in his voice. "I'm not meant to share this, but I have listened to the recording. A police officer friend shared it with me." Rachel lifted her gaze. "There is no doubt about it. Yet I fear they are delaying, attempting to dilute it, allow it to dissolve into the ether." As with all things, Rachel let out a sigh. That evening, Ethan lingered by the window, gazing out at the desolate street. He recalled Margaret perched in her chair, her hands quivering as she cradled her tea. Each time he entered, her gentle eyes danced in his memory. With every bouquet he presented, the delicate aroma of orchids lingered in the air, Beloved matriarch, I apologize, he murmured, his fingers clutching the window railing tightly. Mother had a point. Victory was theirs. The wind howled through the cracks in the window. The soft, muted glow of the yellow light stretched his shadow across the wall, elongated and solitary. On the following day, Grace paid a visit. She presented an aged handwritten letter, the paper tinged with yellow and the script unsteady. Richard once penned this for me, should he find himself unable to voice his thoughts. I left it untouched. However, at this moment, I believe it would be beneficial for Ethan to read it. Ethan paused, then carefully opened the letter, his gaze traversing each line with intent. Dearest Grace, if you find yourself reading these words, it's possible that I may not have another opportunity to gaze upon your face again. I have witnessed realities that many choose to ignore. I have suffered my fill. Yet, I am aware that hope endures. A child with luminous eyes, the sole one courageous enough to gaze upon a closed door and take a step forward. If Ethan happens to be reading this, please convey the message to him. For the truth to awaken once more, it requires but a single soul to embrace it wholeheartedly. Ethan set the letter down, raising his gaze. He held steadfast in his belief in me until the final moment. Grace inclined her head in agreement. What actions will you take in light of that belief? I'm uncertain. I find myself at a loss, uncertain of the path forward. Rachel stepped into the room, her presence marked by the gentle thud of a small pouch as she set it down on the table. Today, I stumbled upon this among Grandma's cherished belongings. Ethan carefully unfastened the pouch. Within the confines of the envelope lay an aged photograph, capturing Margaret and Richard in their youthful exuberance, framed by the backdrop of Liberty Square. Behind them, Grace wore a radiant smile. This is the reason he selected us, Rachel remarked, as he found himself devoid of any intimate connections. He held the conviction that we embodied the last vestiges of goodness. Ethan grasped the photograph with fervor, his eyes glistening with emotion. He raised his gaze to the clock. 3 weeks have passed since that fateful day. Time continues its relentless march. It has become a topic of silence. The air is still and the headlines remain hushed. The media shifted its focus. That's precisely why we must not remain silent, Rachel declared. I requested that Michael send a recording to each independent radio station. If they refuse to accept it, I shall broadcast it live on your account. Ethan's eyes grew wide with surprise. That is something you would indeed do. My mother was taken from me in a violent act. I found myself facing a threat. You faced an affront. What more is there for us to forfeit? With a gentle curve of her lips, Grace smiled. Ah, that's the Rachel I recall from the ponytail era at the square. Ethan cast his gaze upon the two women before him, then offered a subtle nod. Thus, we shall proceed. Yet this time, the goal extends beyond the salvation of a single soul. This time, to ensure that no one else suffers from violence, coercion, or the oppressive grip of silence in the shadows. That evening, Ethan positioned himself before the computer, the screen's illumination creating a soft glow upon his features. He crafted the title for the video, The Reality of Silver Haven Nursing Home, as expressed in a victim's last words. With a decisive click, he initiated the live broadcast. His visage emerged on the screen, voice quivering yet unmistakably distinct. Ethan Carter is my name. I am 14 years of age. Accusations of deceit, pretense, and disruption have been hurled my way. Yet this evening, I find myself as a child recounting the tale of an elderly man, a soul who perished from the cruelty of violence, hunger, and the suffocating solitude of a shadowy chamber. He initiated the playback of the recording. Richard's voice echoed through the air. The viewer count surged on the screen. 10, 53, 200, 1,000, swiftly followed by tens of thousands in mere minutes. Responses poured in. Oh my goodness. The voice of this elderly man carries a profound sense of sorrow. Tears are streaming down my face at this moment. Grace rested her hand gently on Ethan's shoulder. Rachel lingered in the shadows, her phone gripped tightly in her hand. Just then, Rachel's phone buzzed to life. It was indeed Michael. Excellent work. The video is rapidly gaining traction. Beacon TV has reached out to me. They wish to interview Ethan tomorrow morning. Ethan raised his gaze. It appears that there is an attentive ear nearby. Rachel beamed. You accomplished it. You resurrected the truth. Michael's calling, Rachel said, glancing at her phone. her voice trembling ever so slightly. Ethan activated the speakerphone. The lawyer's voice resonated with clarity and conviction. The live stream from last night has garnered over 1 million shares. Prominent media organizations are stepping into the fray. Beacon TV has extended an invitation for both of you to join a segment this evening. Rachel, this marks a pivotal moment. However, I must insist that you hand over all memory cards, recordings, and storage devices to the authorities without delay. We've created 3 backups, Rachel stated. One stored on an external hard drive, another nestled in the cloud, and a third secured on a USB tucked away in a safe. Flawless. Maintain it as such. I am in communication with Chief James Newman. He has viewed the video and has initiated the reopening of the case concerning Mr. Richards' death. What is the situation with Karen? Ethan inquired. Will she be taken into custody by the police? Should all proceed as anticipated, Karen Mitchell is expected to receive an official summons within the next 24 hours. Rachel clasped her son's hand gently. Ethan lifted his gaze, his eyes aglow with excitement. Are we truly on the brink of revealing the truth, Mr. Michael? This time it seems you did more than rescue Mr. Richard. You may have also salvaged the spirits of countless others who had been overlooked. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the Beacon TV studio. Simply unwind. Respond precisely as events unfolded, instructed the host Lisa Parker. While she deftly adjusted the microphone clip to Ethan's collar, he confessed with a hint of apprehension, I'm feeling a bit nervous. Your courage surpasses that of 100 adults. Are you prepared? Ethan inclined his head in acknowledgement. The transmission commenced. The stage was illuminated by brilliant lights. Lisa gazed directly into the lens of the camera. This evening, we are honored to host a truly remarkable guest in our studio, a 14-year-old boy, Ethan Carter, who captivated the nation with his steadfast bravery. Ethan sealed his lips, his gaze locked onto the still audience. Could you transport us to the very start, Ethan? Do you remember the first time that sound reached your ears? Indeed, it was a Saturday. I visited my grandma, as I do each week. A faint groan echoed from behind a door in the dimly lit back hallway. I peered within and beheld Mr. Richard bound tightly. He articulated each word with deliberate slowness, painting a vivid picture of the room, capturing the intensity in Mr. Richard's gaze, the sharpness of Karen's threats, and the palpable fear coursing through his hands as he steadied his phone to take a quaking photo. Rachel. Lisa directed her gaze towards his mother. From the very start, did you place your trust in your son? Rachel felt a lump rise in her throat. In the depths of my son's gaze, I beheld the truth. Even if the entire world were to forsake me, I could not do the same. Mrs. Grace, a dear friend of the late Richard Walker, is present this evening as well, Lisa continued. Could you verify the authenticity of the recording? I held on to it, Grace remarked. During a visit to the nursing home, Richard handed it to me. He spoke, if I should vanish one day, bestow this upon the one daring enough to gaze into the abyss. That individual is Ethan. Cheers erupted. Lisa continued, and at this moment, we will listen to a segment of that chilling recording. Mr. Richard's voice resonated once more, raspy and filled with pain, yet as clear as a bell, jolting the conscience of an entire society like a much-needed wake-up call. The following morning, headlines erupted throughout the media landscape. Ethan stumbles upon unspeakable terrors lurking within the confines of Silver Haven Nursing Home. The government has mandated a comprehensive investigation into the nursing home system. Karen Mitchell, summoned without delay. The digital landscape ignited with fervor. The boy had been honest from the very beginning. I once hurled insults at him. At this moment, I find myself engulfed in a sense of shame. Ethan stands as a beacon of heroism. Mr. Richard may now find his eternal rest. At 10 a.m., a firm knock echoed against Karen's door, heralding the arrival of the police. With a serene expression, she opened it, her hair meticulously brushed. The gray dress exudes elegance. Yet upon catching sight of Captain James Newman, she instinctively retreated a half-step. Miss Karen Mitchell, Newman stated, you are hereby urgently summoned for an investigation concerning allegations of abuse, elder mistreatment, financial fraud, and the indirect causation of death. Where is the warrant? Karen inquired, striving to maintain her composure. In this moment, Newman raised the document adorned with an official seal. One possesses the inherent right to maintain silence. Karen glanced back at her lawyer, Jonathan Walker, who stood poised behind her.
Take action.
Jonathan advanced with purpose. My client is prepared to offer complete cooperation, yet we insist that her rights be safeguarded. We're not the ones abusing anyone, Newman remarked with a chilling detachment. Our mission is to bring justice back to its rightful place. Karen found herself in handcuffs, being led toward the waiting police car. In a quaint little coffee shop, Ethan found himself seated alongside Rachel, Grace, and Michael. She was indeed taken into custody, Ethan inquired. Michael inclined his head in acknowledgement. It extends beyond her alone. 2 additional staff members found themselves in custody as accomplices. Today, a nurse by the name of Natalie Brooks has officially stepped into the spotlight. Nurse Natalie. Ethan rose to his feet. She found her voice. She presented a collection of handwritten records detailing erroneous doses, coerced signatures on prescriptions, and night shift logs spanning the last 2 years. Rachel rested her hand gently upon her chest. Thank goodness. At last, a voice from within is breaking the silence, Michael continued, adding more to the conversation. Authorities uncovered that Karen and her accomplices misappropriated more than $400,000 from senior citizens through the forgery of signatures and the coercion of account transfers. What is to be said of my grandmother? Ethan inquired, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. Her medical records had been tampered with. However, the internal camera footage reveals that she went without Medicat ion for a continuous span of 3 days. Rachel quivered. They deliberately took my mother's life. Michael inclined his head with a grave expression. We shall illuminate everything. As the evening unfolded, Ethan found himself in solitude within the confines of his room when a video call from Jake illuminated the screen. Excuse me, do you have a moment to spare? Ethan let out a soft chuckle. I assume you have some fresh comments to share with me. Jake raised his phone high. Countless voices have risen, all hailing you, the courageous lad. Ethan wore a smile. I simply took the necessary steps that were required of me. Not all would have done so. The school is currently in discussions about naming the new library after Ethan Carter. The principal is currently engaged in a meeting. I believe my expulsion was imminent, Ethan quipped. Jake erupted in laughter. Such is life. It can transform in the blink of an eye. With the dawn of a new day, a government convoy made its way to Silver Haven Nursing Home. New personnel were introduced. A sign dangled from the gate, currently closed for a comprehensive investigation. Grace strolled alongside Ethan as they passed through the gate. He paused, his eyes fixed on the iron door that had long been a guardian of countless transgressions. Ethan found himself devoid of any unexpected assistance. He expressed his desire to bid farewell to Mr. Richard one final time. They strolled into the back garden, where a memorial stone stood in honor of the departed residents. A fresh brass plaque had been affixed, its surface adorned with carefully engraved words. Mr. Richard Walker, the man who ignited the fire of truth in the quietude of silence. Ethan knelt and gently laid a bouquet of lavender upon the ground. He murmured, his voice quivering yet imbued with warmth. I have accomplished it, Mr. Richard. Michael read from the announcement, his eyes gleaming, as he shared that the Salem City Court would commence preliminary hearings on the Silver Haven nursing home case on the 25th. Karen Mitchell, along with 3 accomplices, faces formal charges encompassing 4 serious counts: elder abuse, embezzlement, intentional harm resulting in death, and document forgery. Rachel, Ethan, you both can bear witness, Grace stated with a grave demeanor. Yet, this is contingent upon your readiness, Ethan. He inclined his head in acknowledgement. I wish to express myself, not solely for Mr. Richard, but for all those who have never received a defense. The central courthouse buzzed with anticipation as the courtroom brimmed with reporters, lawyers, families of victims, and those who had closely followed the case on television. The police implemented stringent security measures. Karen occupied her place in the defendant's row, her formerly tidy bun now disheveled, her expression taut with anxiety. Beside her stood attorney Jonathan Walker, his discomfort unmistakable for the first time. Kindly observe silence. The court is now in session. Judge Mark Reynolds, renowned for his impartiality, brought his gavel down with authority. The proceedings commence with the opening statements from the prosecution. Your Honor, stated prosecutor Sarah Wells as she advanced. We will demonstrate that Karen Mitchell and her associates transformed a nursing home into a site of torment for the elderly. They compelled the residents to surrender their financial documents, and when those individuals ceased to possess economic worth, they were abandoned to their fate. Sarah listened to Mr. Richards' recording. A hush descended upon the courtroom. Numerous older members of the audience dabbed at their eyes, tears glistening on their cheeks. Nurse Natalie Brooks has also provided testimony, recounting the threats she faced after observing Karen administer improper doses to the patients. Natalie rose from her seat and made her way to the witness stand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the entire truth, and nothing but the truth? The judge inquired. I truly swear. Have you observed instances of abusive conduct? Sarah inquired. Indeed, Natalie responded with conviction. Karen once bound Mr. Richard to his bed, a consequence of his stubborn refusal to consume the meal she had selected for him. She administered a substance that rendered him unconscious for almost 48 hours. I brought it to the attention of the head nurse, only to be cautioned and reassigned thereafter. What held you back from stepping forward earlier? Fear gripped me at the thought of losing my job, and filled with trepidation for my existence. Yet Ethan, that young man, filled me with a sense of shame. The silence had become unbearable. Ethan lingered in the shadows, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. At last, it was his moment. He approached the witness stand, clad in a crisp white shirt, his hair meticulously styled, though his voice trembled with uncertainty. Ethan, Sarah urged softly, please share with the court what you witnessed. Mr. Richard lay bound to the bed, his groans filling the air, as Ethan began to speak. Miss Karen raised her voice at him, striking him. I captured an image, yet they claimed it was not genuine. I captured the video, they seized it. Yet I pressed on, for I was convinced that inaction would lead to his demise. Sarah inquired, what drove you to persist, despite the slander directed at you? Ethan gazed at Rachel before speaking. If I remained silent, I would be no different from them. Applause filled the courtroom, a cacophony of approval despite the judge's firm call for order. Ethan pressed on. I'm not a hero. I am merely a child who wished for his grandmother to find tranquility in her life. Yet, it was those entrusted with her care who ultimately became her executioners. With a sense of finality, Sarah expressed her gratitude. Thank you, Ethan. The tale you weave is the very essence of our gathering today. As the defense unfolded, Jonathan rose, his voice chillingly detached. My client stands unjustly accused. The purported evidence consists of a unilateral audio recording that lacks independent verification. What about the testimonies? A child burdened by psychological scars and a nurse filled with discontent. The judge interjected. An official report has been received confirming that the voice is indeed that of Mr. Richard. The recording remains unedited. Moreover, the recordings from the facility's internal security cameras unmistakably reveal unusual conduct within the patient's room. Jonathan's complexion drained of color. The proceedings unfolded over the course of 4 days. The courtroom brimmed with people on the day of sentencing, every seat filled to its limit. Judge Reynolds declared that Karen Mitchell is hereby sentenced to 17 years in prison for the crimes listed, followed by 2 years of probation upon her release. Aaron Reed and Chloe Rivers, the nursing aides at the center of the case, have each received a sentence of 8 years in prison. All misappropriated assets will be seized by the government and returned to the rightful relatives of the victims. Karen let out a piercing scream. I was merely fulfilling my duties. The elderly seem to spend their time lamenting. They lack appreciation. What mistake did I make? Jonathan gently guided her back into her seat. Ethan held tightly to his mother's hand. Rachel murmured, We accomplished it. Grace shed tears. Richard, you may now find your eternal peace. 7 days later, the government convened a special press conference. The Minister of Social Welfare addressed the audience. We offer our sincerest condolences to the families of those who have suffered loss. In the coming 6 months, a comprehensive review will be initiated across 1,200 nursing homes nationwide. No sanctuary shall be permitted to conceal its shadows beneath the guise of benevolent aid. Ethan ascended the stage, a moment of pride as he accepted an honorary certificate. This courageous young soul reminded us that regardless of age, every individual deserves to be listened to and treated with respect. He took the certificate in silence, yet his eyes glowed with a fierce resolve. Rachel made her way back to the office. A formal apology was issued by the company for her suspension during the initial phases of the case. Amy embraced her upon their reunion. Have you ever considered this? The children at school have begun to refer to your son as the little lion. It's utterly charming. Grace often paid visits to the mother and her son. One day, as she approached with a serving of flan, she cast a glance at Ethan and spoke. It seems imperative that we commit this narrative to paper, not to offer accolades, but rather to assure the vulnerable that they are not isolated in their struggles. Ethan gave a subtle nod. I shall compose it, yet I shall name it The Whimper Behind the Door. On a vibrant spring morning, Ethan and his mother made their way to the newly established nursing home, where the government had moved the remaining residents of Silver Haven. The estate was vibrant, bathed in sunlight that streamed into each room. Ethan entered room 12. An aged gentleman with wisps of silver hair sat quietly, engrossed in the pages of a book. So, you must be Ethan Carter, am I correct? The elderly gentleman raised his gaze. We are all familiar with you. Television, print media. Yet above all, we recognize that it is because of you that we are truly experiencing life in its fullest form now. I merely followed Mr. Richards' instructions, Ethan said with a smile. The man extended his hand in a firm shake. I appreciate your perseverance. On that night, Ethan found himself on the balcony of their home, his eyes fixed upon the stars that adorned the sky. Rachel presented 2 steaming mugs of hot cocoa. Have you gazed upon the sky this evening? It is abundantly evident. Clear skies, unobstructed view. Rachel settled herself beside him. The memory of the gaze in my grandmother's eyes lingers with me from our last encounter. They were devoid of fear now. Perhaps she understood that she would linger in memory. Ethan gave a slight nod. He retrieved his phone and brought up a photograph of Mr. Richard, beaming with joy, captured in 1987 and gifted to him by Grace. I have a feeling he's keeping an eye on us. Rachel, Grace's voice echoed from the lower level. A special program about the nursing home case is currently being aired by the news. A segment is being dedicated to honor Richard and the others. Shall we venture out to witness it? It was Rachel who put forth the suggestion. Ethan gave a slight shake of his head. I wish to linger here a while longer. He gazed upward at the sky once again, murmuring gently, filled with a tranquil determination. Mr. Richard, I accomplished it. This narrative serves as a poignant reminder that, while the truth may be obscured, it never truly vanishes, especially when there exists a guardian ready to uphold it. Regardless of their size or the attention they receive, the bravery and resolve of a child such as Ethan possess the power to transform an entire system of injustice. The message is unmistakable. When we advocate for justice, even in the face of isolation, deceit, or intimidation, light will ultimately prevail over darkness. The absence of sound can suffocate the soul's awareness. Yet, when upheld, truth possesses the power to preserve a life. If this tale resonated with you, we encourage you to show your appreciation and join our community by subscribing to our channel. Your encouragement inspires us to continue sharing uplifting tales nearly every day. Your support is deeply appreciated. Until we meet again.